and then I get robbed at gunpoint and step towards the gun and say, "You need love," and they ran. So who I am is bold faith, no fear, and then who I am is outrageously courageous.
Welcome to Beyond the Business Plan. I'm LeAnn Lyon, your guide on this journey to success. We will explore the inspiring stories of visionary leaders and groundbreaking entrepreneurs and unveil the tools and strategies that can empower you to manage your business from anywhere in the world. Join me, LeAnn, as we learn, laugh, and take the leap towards unleashing your joyful business journey. And let's make it happen now.
My guest today is a beacon of encouragement, hope, joy, love, and light. Charla, a retired award-winning flight attendant with 34 years at Delta Airlines, is not only a Zig Ziglar legacy certified trainer, but also a best-selling author, speaker, and coach. Her journey includes carrying the Olympic torch for the 2002 Olympics and creating impactful changes through her Courageous Clarity coaching program. Charla's life is a testament to personal development, and she is here to share her wisdom of unleashing your potential and embracing life fully. So get ready to be inspired by Charla Anderson. Charla, are you there? There she is.
Hello, hello.
Charla, it's so good to see you.
Thank you so much. This is really a very, very huge honor. I love talking with you. It's amazing.
Well, as we get going, I know you've written more than one book. In fact, last year, didn't you release more than one book in 1 year?
Yes, I I wrote a tiny book called Candy Bar Hugs. It doesn't take much to make a difference. Tiny book, big message that I wrote and published, self-published in 2017, and it was re-released in a different size and format, kind of a 5th anniversary edition last year. And then I on my birthday, my 70th birthday, I had a party, released Split Second Transformation, Change Your Words, Change Your Life, 31 Daily Practices. And it's a very, it's another small book, and it's very, it's helpful to help remember that your words matter. Every word matters.
Every word matters. And for anybody that's listening to this podcast, I want to invite you, come find the show on YouTube as well, because you will not believe Charla Anderson. Really, she was just showing her books, and that's fine, but she gave you the titles. But she is just absolutely gorgeous, and you would not believe she is 70 years old. She looks beautiful. 71 now, by the way. Yes, 71. She released that on her 70th birthday, but yes. And it's such a blessing to have you here. And you've had quite the journey. You've been an entrepreneur since you were 14, right? No, I'm just kidding. How many?
Yeah, give or take. I don't remember that far back, but give or take, I've just kind of, actually, I don't think that's really the truth. Just saying it right now, it seems to me that when I retired in 2008 from a 34-year incredible career as a flight attendant, award-winning flight attendant, as you said. And, those people were my mission field. I loved it. I thought I would be the oldest flight attendant living, still working. I really expected to never quit. But then I was having to commute. They offered a package. I took it. And 3 months later, I cried the whole time, and I left my beloved career. And I had no idea. Now I was doing other things. I had done Mary Kay. I was doing other things all along, working to make a little extra income here and there. But I had no idea that I started going to like the chamber meetings, and I thought that the one with the most business cards won. So I ended up collecting every business card in the world. I didn't know there was such a thing as leads groups. I mean, I just was not in that world at all, even though I was dabbling with things. I wasn't in the networking world at all. And so it's kind of It's kind of funny when I look back and go, you know, I finally had to just release a lot of those business cards because, you're never going to go back through them if they're, but I didn't know. I mean, I just didn't know. So I've been, I've learned a lot.
Wait, Charla, wait. Okay. I've moved houses twice in the last couple of years. While I have moved boxes of business cards. You're saying I should just throw them away?
I it was really a challenge for me to do that and I was like, really, boxes of business cards, that the likelihood of us ever going back, because this is this is the thing about so many pieces of our life. We can't, if we're facing backwards, we can't be moving forwards. And so the baggage, the weight of getting my attic cleaned out of the 70 years worth of stuff in there, and the garage, though I can't be moving forward if I'm looking backwards and cleaning things out like that. So, and I just assumed I hadn't, all these years, I've never really paid much attention to those old business cards. And one time I bought the scanner and I started trying to scan them, but daunting task.
Yeah.
So we're always meeting new people. Let's keep it fresh. It was hard, but I had a friend that was like, really, you're going to keep those? I was like,
Yeah, I hear you. I still struggle with it. I see them. And, part of it is it actually feels almost guilt inducing when I see old business cards. So I'm like, man, I really thought that was going to be something and I didn't follow up. And you can start beating yourself up a little bit about it. And a
let
friend.
it go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and something I've heard, and I don't recall who said this, but if you spend a lot of your life looking backwards, that's the primary cause of depression. And if you spend a lot of your life looking too far forwards, that's a primary cause of anxiety. And so, like you just said, living present is a great way to be happy, to have joy, to have hope, all the things that, are attributed to a person like you.
Well, how can, where else this is a concept that I never had until in the last couple of years, but I don't have anywhere else to be but where I am right this second. Everybody's be in the now, be present and all that. But honestly, it's the only place I have to take the next step from. I cannot change one thing that has brought me, and God ordained from Let There Be Light, having this conversation with you right this second, everything aligned in the past for us to be here right now. And we can't change any of it, but we can change the next step. If we don't like where we are, if we don't like our circumstances, change your words, change your life, but you can change the next word, not the last one.
Wow, I love that. In fact, I'm just going to add on to that. I did not have this time slot filled to record. I had other plans originally for this time. Those plans changed, and we were having a conversation over the weekend, basically, that said, hey, let's do this. I want you to be on the show. I want you to share your wisdom. And hey, I have an availability in 48 hours. Can you be there? And you were able to say yes. So I agree, even to the fact that I left that date open 6 weeks ago, or this date, this time open 6 weeks ago, and here we are speaking, is a testament to exactly what you're saying. Things are happening, even often without us understanding why. And you and I are both going through another transition. But months before I knew that that transition was coming, I was inspired to start looking into options and start looking into some ideas. And yeah, I thought I had my own reasons for what I was doing, and I felt ready to expand and to change some things. But I didn't know that it was going to be so important that I had those preliminary decisions made before suddenly I needed it not only for myself, but to support other people as well. Have you found times in your life when things like that have aligned where something happens and you're like, wow, I didn't know it, but God was actually getting me ready for this moment right here?
For
Can you?
such a time as this, the preparation, so often we, it's like, wow, I had no idea that that was going to cause this, but, or
Mhm.
that give me the preparation or the strength of character to manage things sometimes, or whatever that happens to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I often say as we close in on our 30th anniversary that, we both went through some weird relationships before we met each other, but we quickly agreed it was worth every minute of them, even some of them that were not so good, in order to be ready to meet each other and to have the relationship we have. And I think that's just a beautiful example of how you and I believe see God working in our lives
Where
in
you
business.
are where you are is all you have. That goes back to what I was just saying. Where you are is all you have. You might as well love it, because if you're upset about where you are, upset draws more upset. You can complain all you want, but it will not change until you make a different decision, or change your words, change your life. So that when and one of the things I got a few years ago that I just am so grateful that it was a download or a word or whatever, but I don't have to know. I love that I give, it's like, okay, things are going on, but I don't have to know. I don't have to know why. I don't know, have to know. I don't have to, I don't like gossip. I mean, I just want to be. And somebody else, I also got the words, just be. You don't have to strive that hard. You just get to just be and relax, release, and let it go, and lay it at his feet, if you say, so to speak. But we we're not in control anyway. And then when we think we have control, or think we have to have those words, right? Oh, how did that happen? Why are we going to do that? I love that I can say so often that's going on, and I don't have to know. I just get to just be and live in the moment.
When you say you don't have to know, you mean more specifically, you don't have to know the why or the
Exactly. I don't
how?
have to know. Oh, so, I don't know. There's a lot of things going on in our crazy world. And if I got bogged down into all of that on a regular basis, how did we get, I don't waste my time and energy on news, so to speak. And, I get a lot, I absorb, I mean, I attract a lot of incredible information, but it's not going to be from the TV screen. So,
Yeah. When you retired, I mean, you said that you had some experience with Mary Kay. Was that while you were a flight attendant? It was. Okay. So you were kind of exposed to network marketing, which is a great form of business, but it's also a great introduction to business, even while you were still a professional in as a flight attendant.
yes, actually, I'd done some others before that. And, I would say not necessarily successful with it. I always want to give everything away. So, it's like, oh, I bet they can't afford it. I'll give them a discount before they ever ask. And so this is a learning thing that I'm still learning to this day. I diminish my value sometimes, right? So, I think that you and I kind of had that conversation a couple of years ago, where we weren't completely feeling or valuing ourselves enough to know how to charge or what to charge. And you were both guilty of just over giving. And there's nothing wrong with giving, of course, but a giver can't give if a receiver won't receive. And, we diminish our value, and God is generous, and he wants us to be generous. And I can't give from an empty purse.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, I run a summit 3 times a year called the Start Restart Your Business Summit. And I mentioned it to somebody, and when he asked, "Oh, are you looking for sponsors?" I mean, you could have just knocked me over. It had never occurred to me at that point to ask for sponsorship. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'd be willing to pay money to be in front of your crowd and be, lifted up and have an opportunity to speak to your summit. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, and it seems so basic. I mean, anybody listening to this who's been in business for a while is like, yeah, okay. But I assure you that was years ago. And, you don't know what you don't know. And you always are growing as an entrepreneur. Yes, I do come like Charla with a very big, very open, and very generous heart. But what she said, we can't give from an empty purse either. And we've definitely discovered that. So, do you think network marketing was the entry point for you for becoming an entrepreneur then?
I probably did Girl Scout cookies as a kid, I guess it probably was. I started going to conferences and conventions and being around all these people a little bit, looking back, a little more rah-rah than um, than I prefer now. But, you know, I, I do believe that it's probably the most, once the got the pyramid scheme thing out of the way,
Right.
because it isn't. um, it's a very generous way to step into a new and into a business opportunity. And I wasn't. I would call myself. I'm very loyal. I was with Mary Kay 16 years, and then I was with my last company 16 years, and it just got bought out by a company that's been around 20 years. Love, love, love them. I am so committed to these wonderful, humble leadership is my highest core value in a business. And so they epitomize that. And Mary Kay kind of epitomized that, just being humble. And so, yeah.
Well, good. That means I get to have you around until you're at least 87. So I just did the math. I'm good.
Well, I'm claiming 120. So,
Yeah,
and I've got these
absolutely.
incredible products that are gonna, help me with that. So
Yeah. We've kind of touched on a challenge that we both have had in our entrepreneurial journey, and that is charging what we're worth. You're a coach, there comes a point in a conversation where, I'm a consultant, a little bit different. We can discuss that if you like, but there comes a point where you say, you know what? I'd love to keep working with you, or I have a solution for you, or here's my package. And getting what does it take to get over that line for you?
it takes a lot. It took and yeah. So recently I had a conversation, and I was just like, and she said, well, what's the investment? And I was like, it's this. And I surprised myself in a way that I really had less hesitation around it, because I'd created something that I felt good about. Right. So, yeah, I'm my history is not being, monetizing things. As I've already said, I tend to, get creative. I write books, I do all these things. And it's, this is my year that I expect to pull a lot of those, circle the wagons with the things that I do. And hopefully, I won't say hopefully, and actually make a bigger contribution to the world. Because
Because we're
ultimately, that's what I want to do, right? I want to make a difference to everyone I meet. And that's when I walk out the door, and I have, thank you, thank you, thank you is my mantra, right? I'm always waking up in the night, thank you, thank you, thank you. And let my light shine. How can I be a beacon? How can I make my light shine out in the world? And people are really attracted to that, even if they don't recognize it. So I make friends at the grocery store.
And that's a great way to be. It's a great way to be. In fact, I heard you say hopefully and then correct yourself, because that's part of what you talk about in your books. We recently had a conversation about the word want, I think. The word want, I want to. And I think you said you were working on that one. Or
I
maybe,
definitely am working on that one. And it came from, as a reminder from another mentor of mine. And she's like, because in my book, I'm like, speak what you want, not what you don't want. Every word matters. Speak what you. And she reminded me that the word want means really extreme lack in certain ways, so lack. So when we speak what we want, we're speaking the lack that we don't have. So what if we change that word to speak what you desire? Because the word desire, of sire, the father of the giver, and speak what you desire. I love that shift.
Yeah. Desire was actually the topic of of a chapter I read recently in a book called Seeking God, and talking about desires, because there's a lot of desires. People can desire ice cream, and they can desire success, they can desire money, they can desire love or freedom. There's a lot of different desires that people have. Are they all of the Father?
God says he will give us the desires of our heart.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
why we often minimize what, I mean, if he's going to give us the desires of our heart, why are we settling for such small things when there is no, this is a truth in my world. There's no lack in our world. There is no lack. There is abundance is everywhere. I call it a distribution issue a little bit, it's not, but it's out there to be had if we choose. There's a difference in choosing and deciding too. There's those two words are a big um, conversation, but if we choose to um, just continue going for what we desire. And I believe Jesus said we can do what he did and even more, right? In John 14:12, this isn't about religion, this is about relationship. But Jesus said we can do what he did and even more. That
Mhm.
means a lot. We can do more than we can even imagine. And we sell ourselves short. And I believe we've been kind of programmed to stay small. And so if we can do what he did and even more, and then we can ask, believe, receive. And there's consideration out there that some verses may have been removed, and because the how is not necessarily in there, but I believe, the secret and the secret of the secret, all that. I think the secret is ask, know what you want, ask, be very clear, believe that it's already on its way, be willing to receive and expect. And the piece that's missing is know that it's already on its way. If you want better health, you just thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't pray wimpy prayers. Jesus didn't. He didn't beg God, please, 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 please. He's like, thank you. It all starts with gratitude. Thank
Mhm.
you. Get up and walk. Thank
Yeah.
you. Eat the fish. There was no wimpiness in his commands or his prayers. And if we can do what he did and even more, which I certainly wasn't raised understanding, and I still don't know that I understand it, but that's a lot. My fundamental upbringing didn't include that maybe never.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
I'm going to go a little bit different with the desire thing, just a little bit, because we can desire great health and wellness, and we can desire ice cream and cookies. Well, they're in direct conflict with each other as well. And so there are the desires of the flesh, and there are the desires of the Father, or in our case, or in my version of it would say that these were the desires put in us before we were born, before we were knit together, even going back to Genesis, at the creation of everything. Everything was foretold, everything was foreseen. And that does not negate free will, because we clearly have that. However, when you find that your desires have a conflict between them, that's your opportunity to dig in a little further, and maybe, for us, it would be to pray or to say, Father, which one is your desire for my life? and
Well,
speak into, moving that direction, going towards those giftings. And just one more quick thing, because I'd love to change the subject to this. Um, our giftings were also given us. Both of us are not hard to look at women for our ages, right? And we have the desire to speak and to share and to live openly and authentically and abundantly. Those are desires that I think we've had even going back to when we were little, and that were potentially placed in us long before we could even be aware. What are your thoughts on that?
absolutely. Absolutely. So the gifts you're talking about. So,
Yeah. No, yeah.
um, and this relax, release, and let it go. I'm just going to go back to that 1 second. That if you want better health and you're being diagnosed with something, let's don't claim that. Let's don't. We've been diagnosed with it, but it's not who we are. Because everything you say after I am is who you are. That's the God's name in you. That it's those words are the most powerful words on earth.
Absolutely.
And so when we speak that I have this and I'm sick, or whatever we can continue claiming about ourselves is really who we're becoming. And I heard recently, and I don't even know if I can manage to conceive of this, but whatever you say after I am, if you can't say it about God, then you shouldn't say it, because it's the God in you. And I'm like, whoa, that's a toughie. But then I want to say, so the one of the keys is, in that situation, perhaps in a disease situation, you see yourself. Not, you don't claim that you're sick. You do what you got to do to take care of it, but you see yourself playing with those grandkids. You see yourself active and vibrant and alive and happy, and and that, you get what you think about. That's the truth. You get more of what you think about. We've heard it so all our time, but oh, well, I can't control my thoughts. Well, you can, and you should. But
Yeah.
right? So
Absolutely.
the gifts, you're going about the gifts. So yeah, whatever we've been gifted with, it sometimes it seems like it's hard to find for us. You were discovering or whatever. And I was like, it's kind of like just being and being still and know. So often we're so busy with our phones or our devices or whatever, and we don't be still and know. We don't take that moment to be quiet and listen and hear that still small voice that's hiding in there and wanting and whispering. And God, you will, if you trust your gut, so to speak, you will not, rarely, if ever, make the wrong decision, even if it looks like it in the moment, because your gut, the God in you knows. It's your head that gets into the oh, what should I or shouldn't I, whatever, that
I've got like
that
five things.
voice.
Yeah. I've got like five ways I want to take this conversation now, because you just brought up so many good things, really, truly. One, I guess, is, you spoke about the words I am, and likewise, do not let other people tell you who you are. That was a lesson I learned very succinctly. Just recently, somebody spoke into and tried to tell me who I am. You are this and you are that. And they were so off mark. It was not somebody who knew me well. But then when I took a look at it and analyzed it and felt the feels, because it didn't feel good to be told that I was things that I knew, even though I knew I wasn't. But it made me kind of look at who else and when else have people spoke into me less than good seeds. When have people sown poor things? You are into me. And my ability now, even to go back and say, I'm going to put those things away. They are part of my past, but I don't need to dwell on them any longer, because I reject the premise that they can tell me who I am. There is one alone who can tell me who I am, and it's not me. It's the God who created me, who put me together, who said you are. And there is a gift out, a test out there if you are interested. It's called the Spiritual Gifts Test. You can take it. It's easy to take. It's online. Usually, so you're going to give up your email address to someone. So maybe check out the organization that you get it through. But the spiritual gifts test will often lead you towards gifting. And my gifting is not anything like prophecy or speaking in tongue or any of those, because those are part of the spiritual gift test, believe it or not. But it is towards leadership and teaching. Well, that's not a shock, is it? And that's part of the spiritual gift test as well.
So that, I'm sure that's a very interesting thing to know and receive. But when you just be still and know and take the next right step,
Mhm.
we don't have to know the end. We don't
Mm-mm.
have to know the results. We can, I worked with someone who was so focused on the results. And I said, I'm going to, if I'm attached to the efforts, the
Mm.
results will show. And if you're so rigid about your result you want, you may miss some extraordinarily exciting different directions you could have turned. So
Mm.
I think that's a concept that I don't think a lot of people realize. But results, I was like, if you do the efforts on a daily basis, or
Right.
towards the goal, it's not mean you don't work towards it, but it gives you the flexibility to receive new and perhaps more intriguing information.
Yeah. What I find is fun is like with the spiritual gifts test or with the Myers-Briggs or with any of those is usually it's just a confirmation, another confirmation layer. Like I took the Clifton Strengths Finder, and when I first saw my results, I'm like, really? And there's a little bit of me that said, "Oh, I don't want that." And then, but when I really understood what they were saying, I'm like, that is actually how I make decisions. It actually gave me a better opportunity to dig into, yes, my number one strength is being strategic, 100%. Yes, my number two strength is achievement. Yes, my fourth and fifth ones are belief and positivity. It was just confirmation of things I already knew, which then to some degree freed me to be more authentically who I am. Does that make sense?
It does actually, and authenticity. I tell you what, there's we're in a world now that there's no lack of information,
Mm.
and there people do not want. I mean, you can tell people information all day long, and they can fight at the tip of their fingertips. What's missing a lot of times is that connection and the 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 currency of connection, the relationship and authenticity, which you mentioned, and the trust factor, because I think we're starving for that. A lot of us are just starving for real people with skin on, to walk this path along with us.
Yeah. And that in mind, I mean, what has been a really rewarding moment for you as an entrepreneur?
Mhm. Um, the one of the highlights of my uh, life in a long time, at least, is last year when I had the Win-Win Women International Women's Day event at my house,
Mm-hmm.
and it was on March 1st last year, and an angel showed up and helped me. I mean, it was just miraculous all over the place, miracles. And so I remember it. I mean, some of my friends were like, some of the people there, like, I think this was divinely. I mean, the Holy Spirit just was in here, and it wasn't about that at all. It wasn't. It was hosts of TV shows and all kinds of people around here, about 20 women, 22 women. But the next day, I just sat in there and basked in my space that had transformed a lot. So that, to me, that was a big highlight. And I'm having another event in a couple of weeks if you're in the DFW area, in April 26th.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So when you just described something that brings to mind something else. We live in a world where everybody thinks things are physical. We think we live in a physical world, but we also know that the way even our cells are made, that there is more space in a thing than there is solid. And so, I've got my great big microphone right here. I'm showing for anybody listening my big Yeti mic that I have nearby, and it's pretty heavy. Yeah, Charla's got hers as well. Pretty heavy. It's really solid. It's very, you think it's really there. We think we are really here. And we are, but there's more space to us than there is actual matter. And likewise, we live much more in a spiritual world than we do a physical world. And there is a a spiritual battle going on all the time. And so to fill your space and to invite the Holy Spirit in is a very different thing than just letting any spirit into your life or into your body or into your experience, and understanding there is a spiritual battle. When things don't go so well for me, I I definitely am one to say, look, I understand you don't want me to move forward in this path. You need to go. And I call out the spirit that of not moving forward and say, you need to go. This is the path.
And so who I have said I am for so many years, I can't remember exactly when or why, but I think it was around 2008 when I was retiring and a lot of things happening in my world. I started claiming who I am, and the words you say after I am is who you are. So I started saying who I am is bold faith, no fear. Who I am is bold faith, no fear. You know, what does that look like? And if I said it for 15 years or more, and then I get robbed at gunpoint and step towards the gun and said, you need love. And they run and I had no fear. That's the story, not the getting robbed, but that I had no fear in that moment. It's because of who I have said I am for, many, many years. So I think that was 2008 to 2017 when that happened. So who I say I am matters. What you say matters. And I say I'm outrageously optimistic. I'm outrageously courageous. And even the week before that I got robbed at gunpoint, I was creating a coaching program that I kind of was naming Charla's Outrageously Courageous Life Mentoring System. So who I am is bold faith, no fear. And then who I am is outrageously courageous. And then the next week I get robbed at gunpoint, step towards them, and they run and I say, you need love. And they ran without
Wow.
fear. That's my forthcoming book. Outrageously Courageous, Bold Faith, No Fear, Step Towards the Gun. And the gun, of course, is your fear, your suffering, all of those things. So I haven't sat down to finish that one yet.
What a crazy story. I mean, truly. And I mean, this is not a metaphysical gun you're talking about. You were at gunpoint.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Give me your purse, give me your keys. They'd already taken I had two big old heavy canvas bags with my MacBook Pro, my cowboy boots. I was at a convention, right? So I was living from my car for 6 weeks as well in that. So if they'd have taken my purse and my keys, it would have been a whole nother story. It was hard. Just, trying to figure out how to get through with all that. But it's a, and yeah, they shot the gun. I mean, they actually shot it as they were leaving. It's midnight. I didn't see who were they shooting it at you. I'm like, I don't know, but they didn't hit me. But I went when the police came and they ended up finding this shell. So can I say the funny thing? I said, was it a 9mm? I'm from Texas. So these kids thought it's two little old ladies walking up the driveway, at the Airbnb, easy targets. And I'm like, don't mess with Texas.
Yeah.
So there's the humorous piece I add into that because it
Wow.
was true, so, but we all have our stuff. We're all overcoming, but we get to speak who we are. And if we don't like who we are, we can speak a different word
We can. Yep.
at any given moment. If you don't like, if you're okay just to indulge this, I've just heard recently, this is the word I want to live with, and it's like dignity. I'm not crazy that we've lowered our standards so much to with really low vibration words of, we hear these really curse words all the time. They're just common and all that, but they're not. I want to rise above that. I want to have the little bit more self dignity is kind of the word I landed on, to not lower myself to those crass and crude things. Does that mean never? No, I mean, I'm human, but does it mean for the most part, I want to have that little sense of, dignity above that. So anyway, I don't know why that came to mind, but
Hey, you know what? We go with the flow here on Beyond the Business Plan because, that is part of being in business is you have to be going with the flow to some degree. You have to some degree, meet your clients where they are at, but you can also make the decision not to lower your standards to their standards or even to take on a client that doesn't meet your standards. Our time has just flown by here, and I have a couple more questions I want to ask. One is going back to your childhood, like when you were a little one. Were you in Texas then? Okay.
born and reared in Houston
Uh-huh.
area.
So when you were little, do you remember what you used to play? I mean, before you got into middle school and started caring more about what other people thought, when you had that freedom of being a child where you could just be and play and use your imagination creatively. Do you remember what you would play?
I would sit up in a tree and read.
Yep, me too.
I had
Same
that,
here.
the big old, and I would, one of the things that I think was kind of cool, we had a big old oak tree and always had all these leaves. And so I would actually rake the leaves into the outline of a house and hate to take my little doll Susie out there and be with my friend Cindy. And we would just build us a little house and have, and then when I really started thinking of what I wanted to be when I grew up was a preacher's wife with a white picket fence and 2.5 kids, which didn't happen. But
Well, you did get married. You did have children. It wasn't
yes, all of that.
feature, and so you didn't end up with a 0.5 kid, which is okay.
No, I got 3. So,
Yeah. So when you think back on that, and again, kind of bringing this full circle to what we talked about before, the seeds of who we are, the seeds of what make us happy now, and we're both in, we believe the second half of our lives or close to it. Um, do you see the seeds of your current happiness back in when you were a child?
in high school, people go, "You're so weird," and I'm going, "Well, thank you. Who wants to be normal?" I, um, I found a 10-year high school reunion. I found out that all my closest friends were doing drugs in high school. They never offered them to me. I'm like, I'm high on life, So I've had this optimism, this optimistic attitude most of my life, and or probably all of it.
Hmm. Yeah,
So I don't even know if that answered the question, but that's what came to mind. It was like,
yeah, that's all good. There's no right or wrong. There's not a judgment here at all. I used to play teacher. I used to inspire or work to be a leader, be a teacher, and that's what brings me joy today. And I know, speaking with you, we didn't talk about this in your introduction, but being a mom is a core part of who you are and what brings you joy, and you do focus on that. Even with adult children, both of us have adult children. And it changes when they become adults, but they forever remain our children. And they still bring you joy.
they
So that's
do,
one section.
and then they bring these little cuties. Oh,
Yes.
lost it.
Right.
So cute.
Yeah. And for anybody listening, she just flashed a little picture of her grandbaby, who she calls her grand blessing instead.
I do. She's my grand blessing.
Yeah, which I love that. That's beautiful. So, as we kind of get towards the end, of course, I would love for you to share how people can reach and get in touch with you. But before we get there, what in hindsight do you wish you had known before starting your business?
Um, I'm still wishing I would know this. That I could embrace a little bit more or a lot more focus and discipline and structures and systems and things like that. My whole dream is having all the systems in place, and you're so good at that. And mine tend to be scattered, and discipline of, certain routines that, and then I was like, this is my last hurrah. Do I really want to be a business person, or do I want to just play with grandbabies? That I can do that. But I think that it's important for me. These silver hairs, I earned every single one of them the hard way, so it's just like, I have some wisdom, and I have some gifts, and I have some words that I think make a difference for people. And this, my sister one years ago called me, you're just Pollyanna. And she said, that's not reality. I'm like, it's my reality. It's my reality. I get to choose to mirror, or let the reflection of, let it mirror back to people. The person that you were talking about, I thought about this when you were talking about earlier, someone gave you a hard time and calling you things that you're not. And it's like, that's, nobody can hurt your feelings without your permission. Nobody can upset you without your permission. That's the words I want to give to my grandkids. Nobody can hurt you without your permission. It doesn't mean we don't get hurt. I'm just saying, but it's always a reflection on the person. That's, bullies are victims too, right? So, that's one of my sayings. That doesn't mean we want to. I'll just say one in my tiny book. I've got a quote, and it's like, unconditional love, which is my bottom line message. Unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, but not unconditional boundaries. And I'm not saying that, right? I'm not saying that we love with, and I also say, and the harder they are to love, the more they need it. But people that are not nice, generally, there's a reason behind it. They haven't been, this is it. They don't love themselves enough. They don't love themselves enough to know how to love the person in front of them. And that's it. That's where we come in to give that nudge of, you're perfect exactly who and where you are. There's nowhere else you can be than where you are right now. You are loved, and you can't be doing anything to be loved more or less by God.
Right.
And so if you can start receiving that, it changes everything.
Yeah, a similar quote to what you've just been saying is that hurting people will hurt people. And that goes for all of us. If you're not feeling well, it's not the day. If I'm not feeling well, it's not the day to ask me for, pleasantries, like, and we all go through little things, a stubbed toe or whatever the case might be, where we're not going to be
Broken ankles
in a
and
moment. Yeah, right. I mean, last year, let's talk about anyway. And so you go through things, and when you're hurting or when someone around you is hurting, it's probably not the time to expect a lot of grace and mercy from that person. But it's an amazing time to step into grace and mercy for that person. And in fact, with that conversation, and then we'll wrap up here, I indeed asked the bully, I said, you know what, I understand what you're saying, but I operate my business from a position of authenticity with a lot of grace and a lot of mercy. And it didn't go over well. I gave it a good shot, but it just was not received. And, again, it was my attempt to try to bring things down to lower the temperature of the conversation. It just didn't work out, and it's okay.
So this is another word to say. And
Yes.
I just have learned this, heard this from this other mentor I have. She's like, you know, they can say all they want, but what we can respond as, that's just not my reality. That's just not the way I see things. And it takes the emotion out, right? There's no escalation of, of it. Of like, oh, that's just not my
That's just not my
reality.
reality. That's just not how I see things. I'm practicing. Which, by the way, for anybody listening, that's a great thing to do. You need to practice these things. They're not innate. We don't hear them once and remember them forever. You have to practice. When I came across, when I was, I'll say, downloaded my purpose of my life, and this is back in 2003, roughly. I practiced it. I practiced it every day. I practiced it multiple times a day for months to get it into like every fiber and every cell of who I am because I knew it was who I was. But to have it replaying in my head all the time, it's like the music you listen to. I consciously chose to change the station, literally the radio stations of what I was listening to no longer listen to music about things I don't want in my life. When I wake up in the middle of the night, it's praise that I'm singing. And that's a good thing. So, Charla, first of all, I we have one more question, but before we get there, how can people find you? Where do they look online to learn more about the fabulous Charla Anderson?
Fascinating.
Mhm.
My show is the Charla Anderson Show, Collector and Connector of Fascinating People, and everyone is fascinating. It's also my business card. It's just something I came up with trying to find out, well, who am I? And I just like people, as I'm a people person. And so charlaanderson.com, the ever evolving website, charlaanderson.com is probably the best place. And I'm working on an everything page. So it's just like ding, 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 ding. You can find where to find things, but that's still evolving. And yeah, Fort Worth, Texas area.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Charla, just for anybody listening, is spelled C as in Charlie, Harla, and then Anderson is with SON. Anybody watching, of course, you can see it in the corner of our screens. And likewise, it's kind of fun that we both have our own.com. So charlaanderson.com, leannlyon.com. If anybody would like to reach out to either of us, we will put our contact information below in any of these videos and so forth. LeAnn Lyon, though, if you're listening to the podcast, is spelled with 5 letters for my first name, LeAnn, 4 letters for my last name, Lyon, not an extra letter on the end of it, which a lot of people love to do, and then .com. So before we wrap up here, Charla, if you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting their entrepreneurial journey, what would it be?
Do it. Just, you don't have to know everything. And the way I have done it is not the way I would recommend people to do it because I have to get, I mean, back in 2008, I got it. I got an LLC. I got my website. I got all these things, but I've never uh, put all those pieces together in a cohesive way. And when I witness people that are just, I had to have a vanity email from day one. I'm not going to have Gmail on my thing, so silly things that were important to me that don't make you money, even a little bit. They don't give you credibility. They give some credibility, mate, perhaps at some point, but it's not where you have to start. Just, just find a way to do it and um, find people that love you enough to support you and walk with you. Don't forget and ask for help.
Mm, absolutely. And there's so much help to be found. I really believe that.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Well, then, there we go. I am so blessed that you were here today. Such a great conversation, as always. I'm sure it will not be our last, probably not even the last on this show. So anybody listening to this, go ahead and do a search. Have we done the next show? Because it's probably going to happen. So Charla, thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us on the show Beyond the Business Basics to unleash your joyful business potential. And remember, leadership is a voyage we can take together. So find your tribe for the journey. And I'm so blessed that Charla Anderson is part of my tribe.
I love you, LeAnn, and we have actually met in person with skin on, and that was so divine. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
100%. And to our audience, thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for sharing, and give us a like or subscribe or whatever you do on your favorite podcast or video platform to keep shining and aligning with your purpose and Joyminder solutions. Then come back every week for our new inspiring episodes. And until next time, this is LeAnn Lyon, your Chief Joy Officer, signing off. Let's keep spreading the joy, keep leading with heart, and I'll catch you on the next wave of success.
Hey, sales setters, are you ready to jumpstart your entrepreneurial journey or give your business a powerful refresh? Join us at the next and Restart Your Business Summit, where you'll discover the tools, strategies, and inspiration you need to thrive. Learn more at joyminder.com. That's JOYMINDER.com, and look for the Restart Your Business Summit icon. Don't miss out. Your future business awaits. Thank you all for joining us today on Beyond the Business Plan. It's been a joy and a privilege to share this space with you. For more inspiring stories, tools, and actionable insights, make sure to follow us on your favorite video platform. Visit my website, leannlyon.com, and keep leading with heart. And I'll catch you on the next wave of success.